Very cool to be back with you once again. I'm Jim LaPierre. I'm the co-creator of SoberNow.com, and today, once again, it's Thursday, noontime. We live stream through SoberNow's Facebook page. If you haven't been there yet, please check it out and give it a like. Streaming on ChooseHelp.com and ChooseHelp's Facebook page. Hello to folks over there. And coming at you from a number of other sources as well. Please share your comments, your experience, strength, and hope, and questions that you have. Love making these talks more interactive. Today's topic is back to basics and focusing on our recovery, whether that's from addiction or mental health, and looking at what is it that we most need and what is it that's going to benefit us the most. For the most part, the things that I most want to talk about are things that most people don't talk about. So today I want to talk about how COVID is impacting substance use disorder, how it's affecting our recoveries. And I'll be honest, I'm more than a little tired and more than a little drained talking about COVID. But talking about recovery is something that I always love doing. So we're going to mix those up because what we're seeing nationwide and what I'm seeing locally is very concerning to me, and there's a lot to account for. The pandemic has created a number of challenges when it comes to substance use disorder. We've seen overall the best estimates are a 13% increase in overdose deaths over this time last year. And that is incredibly concerning. Certainly, the pandemic resulted in a loss temporarily of residential services. We saw a lot of rehabs closing and even some detox facilities closing. It's harder than ever to get into a long-term program. We saw a real sharp reduction in the availability of harm reduction services, less needle exchanges, less naloxone distribution, and that too is concerning. So what I want to focus on today is, first, just a general piece of advice. If you are considering getting into treatment, if you're even thinking about it, call now. Get on a wait list now. In mental health and in substance use, the demand for treatment is higher than anything I've seen in my career. Frankly, I don't know anyone right now who works in this field that doesn't have a significant waiting list. So my suggestion is, if you're not sure, if you're thinking about it, like you're kind of on the fence, call now, get on a wait list, and then when your name comes up, you can make that decision then. But don't wait. Things are challenging. I hate that word. They're not challenging. They're hard. They suck. And the availability of services is less than it's ever been. So don't wait. Make that call today. Take the first step. Whether that's for any type of treatment or any type of professional that you want to work with, do that now. By all means, check out a 12-step meeting, reach out to friends and family, do all of that. But what we're seeing is a trend that is only beginning to climb. It's going to continue to increase. Okay, so enough about that. Let's talk about getting back to basics. What is that? How do we do that? I think there's a couple of really important ways, and whenever I think about back to basics, I think about steps 1, 2, and 3 in 12-step programs. I think about my friend Artis. My friend Artis is one of the very best addictions counselors that I ever had the honor of working with. And she would often say to folks, no matter how good your program is, no matter how healthy you are and how well you're living, there will be times where your life is unmanageable due to things that are completely beyond your control. And I have certainly found that to be true. I think we can all relate. There are times where you're doing everything right and something unexpected happens, whether that's the loss of a loved one or the loss of a job or just some really significant changes in your life. And of course, all of us can relate to that right now. All of us are struggling. We're 5 months into the pandemic. We're adjusting to a lot of change. There's a lot of socioeconomical and political pressure right now. So I think staying grounded in the midst of all of that is key. Having your priorities intact and making sure that to the best of your ability, you're sticking to the habits and the routines that serve you well. I think for a lot of us, heading back towards relapse or losing other important parts of our program occur because we stopped doing the very things that helped us to get better in the first place. So getting back to basics, to me means what do I have control over and what don't I? It means looking for areas in my life where I'm powerless. I think that for most of us, powerlessness is a very, very difficult thing to accept. It is something that we see as unacceptable. It is something that creates a lot of stress, and for as much as being powerless may suck in a lot of times and places, what I've learned is acceptance of powerlessness is very liberating. It's very freeing. When I accept that I'm powerless, I stop putting time and energy into things that I can't possibly control, and I refocus my attention, the focus of my efforts onto things that are within my control. So going back to basics in that context is going back to step one. What am I powerless over? What do I have control over? What don't I? Do I need more support in my life? Do I need more accountability in my life? And the answers to those are almost always yes. I can always use more. Steps 1, 2, and 3. I can't, he can, I guess I'll let him. That's how a lot of my friends in AA paraphrase those 3 steps. Surrendering to my higher power, recognizing that what my higher power wants from me is far greater than what I want, and that following the lead of my higher power is only, about 1,000,000 times more effective than my way of doing things. I think surrender is something that a lot of us are conflicted about. It feels to some of us like we're giving up. And I remind folks that the only thing you're giving up when you surrender is the battle that you have with self, the battle that you have with your disease. So I think of surrender as I'm not going to keep trying to do things my way. I'm going to do them my higher power's way. I'm going to do them in a way that has helped millions of other people get better. And the results are always so much better. Getting back to basics can also mean doing the most essential and basic aspects of self-care. Making sure that I'm drinking enough water, making sure that I'm eating good food, making sure that I'm taking walks. I hate exercise, but I've maintained commitments to things like walking every day to ensure that I, don't have to keep buying bigger pants. Those very basic things, we all know to do them. It seems so elementary that you might wonder why I talk about them. Frankly, because they're usually the first thing to go. I start eating junk. I drink even more coffee than I usually do, even more energy drinks than I usually do. And if I don't get enough water, I wonder why am I getting these headaches and why do I feel like shit? And so I go, okay, let's get back to everything that works. After hydration, nutrition, and exercise, I always encourage folks to look at their sleep patterns. Typically, when we're stressed, we go to one extreme or the other. We either get way too much sleep or way too little. When I'm trying to avoid myself or things that are happening in my life, my use of screen time goes up. I don't go to bed until I'm drop dead exhausted. I will stay up much later than I know is healthy for me. And I start accumulating a sleep deficit. So science tells us that the average adult needs between 7 and 8 hours of sleep a night. And for every night that you get less than 7 hours, you're accumulating a deficit, which results in just an ongoing toll on your health. It results in reduced immune system, and gradually we start seeing a toll that is unnecessary and something that we know better than to do. But when stress gets really high and when things feel really unmanageable, sometimes we regress to old habits, and the ways in which we avoid ourselves usually involve a lot of unhealthy habits. So when it comes to sleep, I most often when I talk with folks, they feel like there's nothing they can do about that, and I encourage them to develop some habits and routines. Scientifically, we know that reducing screen time an hour before bed absolutely promotes an easier time falling asleep and staying asleep. Journaling is a huge boon to getting proper rest. Take all that stuff on the hamster wheel, write it down on paper. I think for a lot of us, we feel like we're fine throughout the day because we're busy and our attention is focused outside of ourselves. And the minute we lay down to try to sleep, the hamster wheel kicks on, starts running real fast. We got this mental checklist of all the things that are coming up, all the things we can't forget, things that we're worried about. And then if you're anything like me, your brain travels to a lot of places that just are not helpful. So if I can do a brain dump, if I can write out those lists, if I can write out the things that I'm concerned about and put them on paper, it kind of breaks this cyclical cycle in my head, this circular thought pattern where the same thoughts and the same fears and the same anxieties just kind of keep running around. Certainly, this is more important than ever that we be drawing on supportive people in our lives to have a really effective support system, particularly of natural supports. Like if you have some good professionals in your life, I'm happy for you, but you can't call on the professionals in the middle of the night, and you can't call on them necessarily for a lot of things that we need. So cultivating those friendships, those peer relationships, whether that's in a 12-step program, in group counseling or any other forum, I think is vitally important. The more we isolate, the more overwhelming things become, the more we regress to old habits and a whole lot of bad ideas. So I hope that you have people, not people that are there if you need them. I hear that a lot. I'm okay. I've got folks that are there if I need them. Well, first of all, you need them. You need them all the time. Not just when you're in trouble, not just when things get overwhelming. Maintaining those connections and cultivating those friendships serves us well so that we won't be apprehensive about reaching out when things aren't well. I say to folks, I need all the help I can get on a good day. So if you're anything like me, you wait until there's a problem and then ask for help, as opposed to recognizing that the more we do things together, the more that we share our struggles and our solutions, the better everything works. Right now, I'm hearing from tons of folks that they're struggling more than ever with their work-life balance. And for a lot of us, that's a product of working at home. The loss of routine was, we used to commute to work and we had time to think about work as we drove over and time to decompress from work as we drove home. And now for a lot of us, we're doing work at home. We're doing schooling at home. And it feels like a lot of the boundaries that were helpful to us are now conspicuously missing. So developing some new routines, developing a way of saying to yourself, okay, I'm done work for the day, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm done teaching for the day, so here's what I'm going to do. And establishing some new habits to help you adjust to the way things are currently. I mean, life really is an ongoing series of adjustments, and if we're using any kind of passive approach, like if we're waiting for things to get better, it's time to stop waiting. First of all, it's a personal responsibility to ensure that my life and the quality and health of my life is as high as it possibly can be. And secondly, if you're waiting for things to get back to normal, I think that's off the table. I don't think we're going back to anything, but more importantly, I don't want to go back to anything. I've had a lot of my clients say to me recently that I just want to get back to normal, and I've said to them, I've seen your normal and it sucks. Let's not go back there. Let's go, let's build something better, let's build something new, let's build something that serves you well. I'm going to check in real quick on comments, things that folks have shared. Let's see. A couple of really good ones from the first one from my friend Crystal. Thank you. She shared that she got back to basics this week by listening to meetings online every day while doing some writing, and that was helpful to help her be grounded, help her to feel safe. I think safety is undeniably the greatest of all human needs, and it's something that we don't talk enough about. For people like me, what makes us feel unsafe is our own brains, our own memories. For most of us, that's trauma, and there's usually a secondary piece that goes along with it. So the feeling of past memories surfacing, or even just raw emotion or intrusive thoughts surfacing, tends to throw us off into a tailspin, and we can easily try to distract ourselves. We may find ourselves dissociating more than usual, and so the need to be grounded is to very literally be connected to the here and now. Very, very in control physically is usually where that starts. When I'm talking with folks who are overwhelmed, I notice their muscle tension. I notice their breathing. I notice that they're often pacing or gesticulating, and I'll say, okay, this is not how you're going to do your best thinking. So what we're going to do first is get grounded, plant your feet on the floor, focus on some deep breaths, look for muscle tension in your body and release it. These are important strategies. These are very much back to basic coping strategies. And having that control of your body, feeling like you're okay physically, is the most vital piece about feeling safe. For people like me, the most frightening and damaging of times in our lives were when control of our bodies was taken away from us. So on a very basic, very primal level, having control physically and feeling better in our bodies is the most important aspect of feeling safe. From there, looking for healthy ways to cope. Basic approaches to me are hitting meetings and being in the company of kindred spirits. Being around people who really understand me well is vital to my recovery, to my peace of mind and well-being. Music is super important to my coping and to my basic well-being. I spend at least a couple of hours a day actively listening to music, and it's usually in the background when I'm doing work that allows it. Music that either matches my mood or elevates my mood. I've been sharing Rival Sons is my new favorite band. Check out the song Shooting Stars. Really affirming, really beautiful song that speaks to I think expressing and demonstrating greater amounts of love in a world that sometimes feels like it's full of hate. So that has served me well and is a very basic form of coping. Excuse me. Thank you to my friend Woody, who wrote in and said one of the best pieces of advice that had been given to him was, quote unquote, to give yourself permission to be average. It doesn't mean you have to strive for excellence. It just means that it's okay wherever you're at the end of the day. And I echo those sentiments very strongly. If the only thing you do today is don't drink and don't drug, if the only thing you do today is don't cut, if the only thing you do today is don't put yourself in harm's way, then that really is okay. We have to examine the expectations that we hold of ourselves, because what I notice is that when life does become unmanageable, or things outside of our control interfere with our recovery, we don't usually adjust our expectations. And frankly, most of us expect way too much of ourselves. Every once in a while, when I start feeling a little bit squirrely, I will grab a piece of paper and a pen, and I'll write down all of the really important things in my life, all of the really important people, all of the things that I'm involved in. I say all the time that all of my problems are good problems, but I'm a little overly blessed these days. So when I look at what it is that I do professionally, what it is that I do as a volunteer, the way that I serve on different board of directors and teaching, it gets to be a little bit much. But by putting it on paper, I reduce my stress because I'm not constantly concerned about what's the next thing that's due, what's the next thing that absolutely has to get done. I'm pretty good in my memory organization and planning, but no matter how good I am at it, I find that I still have a fear of forgetting. I have a fear that of all these balls that I'm juggling simultaneously, that I might drop one. So when I write all of that down and put it on paper, it's a lot more manageable. I have a lot better sense of things are okay, I'm on top of it, or no, this is what I need to do and this is what I need to ask for help with. So that helps in terms of organization, but it also is striking to me each and every time I do that. When I'm done, I'm faced with the reality that, yeah, that's a little too much. And so I have this ongoing conversation with my higher power where I say, hey, you keep putting all these awesome things in my life. What are you going to take away? And then I suffer the realization that whatever my higher power is trying to take away is probably something that I have a death grip on. And so letting go is an ongoing challenge. It's something that I need to do more of. It's one of my favorite Facebook memes. Everything that I let go of has claw marks on it. So practicing surrender to me is best done through the third step prayer of AA. That's my personal favorite. It gives me a chance to say, okay, my higher power's way works way better than mine. So I'm asking for direction and guidance. I'm asking not only to do what my higher power wants me to do, but to more fully become who my higher power wants me to be. So those are just some strategies that work really well for me. What I find is that when I'm not doing those things, I'm doing what a counselor might call firehouse management. Firehouse management is there's a problem in your life, and so you rush to it and you put all your time and attention to it and you put out the fire, and it seems like things are okay, but the moment you're done doing that, you realize there's another fire in your life. And so what we tend to do oftentimes, even in recovery, is we're always putting out the next fire because balance is something that we're not good at. Moderation is something that we're not good at, and people like me have a tendency to take on way too much and not maintain enough support, not maintain good enough health to be as effective as we'd like to be. So I invite you to take stock. What are your goals currently? They don't have to be life-changing things, just like, hey, what are you trying to do right now? Take stock through introspection. How are you feeling? What do you need? The three hardest questions I ask people: what do you need? What do you want? And how are you? Like, not the automatic answer that you give people, but how are you really? And the simple truth is that an awful lot of us are feeling overwhelmed right now. An awful lot of us are going back to unhealthy habits and ways of coping. An awful lot of us are feeling completely isolated, completely overwhelmed, feeling anxious about a lot of uncertainty. Will the kids be going back to school in the fall, or won't they? Will I be going back to work? Will I be able to find a new job? Am I going to be able to pay rent? Am I going to be able to meet my basic life needs? And those are super important questions. We can't always get the answers that we want, and we certainly can't get them when we want them, because I'd already know everything if everything worked the way I wanted it to. So your self-care is more vital, more important than it's ever been. I encourage you to think about the degree to which you're taking care of yourself has everything to do with the degree to which you are able to be present for others. Sometimes I think we lose sight of that in terms of sacrificing our own needs because we believe that the important things in our life absolutely require our attention. And I'll say, okay, and then when a friend or a family member calls unexpectedly and needs support, are you going to be in a place where you can offer that? So I say, let's get back to basics. Again, hydration, nutrition, exercise. Let's get back to basics, hitting meetings, talking with your higher power, having a spiritual practice, leaning on friends and family, and getting to a place where folks can lean on you as they need to. Basic stuff, but please make that investment. We need you more than ever. So I'm going to be signing off in a minute, but I want to invite you to connect with me. Jim LaPierre on Facebook. Jim@sobernow.com is how you get to me through email. Would love to hear about questions that you have or topics that you'd like to see covered in future talks. Would love to have you check out the site, sobernow.com. For a limited time, we're still offering lifetime access for a $99 charge. That gets you access to a 28-day program that is completely confidential, maintains complete anonymity. I literally don't even need to know your name to have you access the program. So a lot of cool stuff going on there. Please check out Sober Now's YouTube channel. Head on over there. We got a little over 80 or so videos on topics that are completely relevant to recovery. Again, both in addiction recovery and in trauma and mental health recovery. And please share with friends and family. We'd love to expand this conversation. A resource like this one is completely free, and my hope is that as the demand for other types of services becomes greater and greater going forward, that we can share some free resources like this one, so that folks can maybe get pointed in the right direction or get the help they need. So that's all from me today. Please take excellent care of yourself, and I'll look forward to talking